Welcome to the shop. Steve here at SKS Props. Are you a foamsmith or know someone who is? Then this video could change your life. And that's because in today's video, I'm going to show you how I make the ultimate SKS Props smooth sanding drum. And this is something that I should have gone over a long time ago, but like with some of my other techniques, I've done them for so long that I take them for granted and I don't realize what an opportunity it could be for someone that's brand new coming into this hobby to see something like this, or some of the veterans that are out there. So a lot of us, when we got our rotary tool, you get your box and it comes with a couple different sanding drums in it. Normally a pretty coarse one and a fine grit one. And depending on how coarse that is, they can be somewhat aggressive to foam. It could remove too much and it could make your builds fuzzy on the sides. They won't come out completely smooth. And so when it comes to making my own sanding drum, because I have a ton of different drums all around my shop. And I've got coarse ones, fine ones, I have stone bits. But even a stone bit, as great as that is, it's still pretty smooth and it doesn't remove enough material. It does a great job cauterizing, but if I was still wanting to take away just a little bit of material, sometimes that doesn't work so great. And so years ago, I developed my own type of sanding drum, and it's a process that goes into adding and removing to it to make it pretty smooth, but still have enough grit to remove some of that foam. And this all came around because I received an email from a fan not too long ago. So let me go ahead and read this so we can get some context on the subject. Hey SKS, first off, I'm a big fan of your work and I'm sure you are busy, so thank you for taking the time to read this. I really enjoy your videos and I love how easily I can follow along step by step. The way you explain everything is amazing. And I appreciate that because it takes a lot of work to do it, so thank you very much. I'm somewhat new to foamsmithing and I'm getting better with the rotary tool, but I can't seem to get my sanding to be as seamless or as smooth as yours. Is there a big difference in the sanding drums and possibly the foam that I'm using? I've been using floor mats because I'm new to all of this, but I just ordered some of your HD foam from Blick. Any help or advice is appreciated. Thanks in advance, David. Well, thank you, David, first off, for emailing me, and I'm sure other people will thank you after the end of this video, especially if they learn how to make their own super smooth sanding drums. And yes, the type of drum that you have makes a huge difference as to how clean the foam will be. If you're using a very coarse sanding drum on foam, you could get a lot of fuzzies from that. And then when it's rounded over, it doesn't have a good transition to it. Also, the type of foam that you use can make a huge difference as well. So the more porous or less dense that a foam is, the more fuzzies it will have, regardless of sometimes even how smooth of a drum you use. So that's why a high density foam like my HD foam cuts and it sands over really, really well because it is a super high density. So a lot of these cuts that are on here that have been rounded over, they're almost seamless because of the types of drums that I use. So I want to show you what it takes to put together a super smooth SKS Props sanding drum. Let's go ahead and get started. So for this demo, we're going to transform a medium grit drum into a smooth drum. The first and most important piece you're going to need is a tile of granite. I go ahead and attach the drum to my Dremel rotary tool. You can see this drum is worn down, but you can use this process on a brand new drum as well. Apply the sanding drum to the back of the granite tile where it's still rough. This is going to knock down most of the heavy grit on the drum. At this point, I've knocked down a decent amount of the grit, and I can already tell that it's starting to smooth out. Now flip your granite tile over to the polished side and then ramp your rotary tool to the highest RPM possible. Now that the heavy grit is knocked down, we're going to start to smooth it out, and to do that we're going to use some Liquitex heavy body acrylics. I paint the acrylics onto the sanding drum and then use a hairdryer to speed up my dry time. After the first coat had cured, I go ahead and apply a second coat, and notice again that I'm applying this paint pretty heavy. I use my hairdryer one more time, and now this drum is ready for refinement. So the process in the beginning of knocking down the grit, we're going to do those steps all over again. Go ahead and grab your granite tile and start on the back side that has the highest texture. Then we're going to switch over to the side of the tile, which isn't as polished as the front or as textured as the back. For the final pass on the tile, go ahead and run the drum on the polished side. At this point, the sanding drum is actually pretty good. We can get a decent round over with very little striation. But there's one more step to apply to really finish this sanding drum off. I grab a scrap piece of wood and I set my Dremel rotary tool to the highest RPM it has. The whole point of this process is the friction against the wood is heating up the acrylics. That's causing the paint to slightly melt and smooth over on the drum even more. But again, unlike a stone bit, this still has enough grit to take away some of the foam while cauterizing. So let's do a test. I'm going to attach a medium grit sanding drum and still do the same round over techniques to the 6mm foam. After a quick heat seal, you can tell that the sanding drum was fairly aggressive against the foam. It's left a lot of striations and pulls on the side. Now I'm going to take the sanding drum that I just finished and do the exact same steps. After the light heat treatment, you can see a significant difference in just how smooth the side of this foam is. And when I compare it to the other piece, there's a night and day difference. This type of a smooth sanding drum also does a fantastic job minimizing seams. I'm going to glue together a couple pieces of foam with some contact cement, and after the adhesive has been allowed to dry, they are firmly pressed together. And here you can see after the glue cures, the seam is pretty visible. So I'll sand first across the seam and then with it, and you can see that this process really minimizes that overall seam. The thing that's really great is the more you use these drums, the more material they'll eventually start to pick up and the smoother they'll get. That way you'll have multiple variations depending on the look you're trying to achieve. So you all can see the steps that I took to put together my SKS Props Super Smooth Sanding Drum. And this is the type of technique that could literally change your foam smithing workflow. So if you are using my type of a sanding drum or using HD foam, be sure to tag me at SKS Props on Twitter and Instagram because I want to see your creations. Until next time, build your best with the best HD foam.